Thanks for joining me today. We're going to be digging into a topic that's growing fast in the world of app marketing, but it can feel a bit complex and a bit confusing for a lot of app marketers, and that is marketing mix modeling. Now, I know MMM can sound a little bit heavy at sometimes because it is steeped in data science and machine learning, but today I'm going to break it down into clear language, well, hopefully anyway, and hopefully show you why it's becoming such a powerful tool for app marketeers. So here's what you can expect from the session. Firstly, I'm going to briefly introduce you to who Kochava are and what we do. Then I'll explain exactly what MMM actually is. And in this section, I'll also be explaining the difference between MMM and last touch attribution, both from a technical perspective and in plain language, so that we're all starting from the same place as each other. From there, I'll walk you through the three biggest reasons why more and more app marketers are turning to MMM and using this to optimize their performance. Lastly, I'll leave some space towards the end for questions. This time last year, I was talking on the same subject and didn't leave enough time for questions. There was a lot of them towards the end. So whether you're curious or skeptical about MMM or somewhere in between, my goal today is really to give you a new perspective on how to measure what really moves the needle for your marketing strategies. So let's dive in. So quickly on Kochava. Kochava was founded in 2011, and we've been at the forefront of helping advertisers measure and optimize their app marketing performance across all connected devices. At our core, we're a mobile measurement partner, so we're an MMP. We work with over 1,000 clients globally, and we have a team to support those clients of over 200 app marketing experts, all focused on solving real-world marketing challenges. Our growth suite is built to help marketers grow, and it includes our trusted MMP service, along with AIM, which is our next-generation marketing mix modeling platform. This is the topic we're going to discuss today, and this is the product that I lead as the general manager. And then lastly, we've got our Apple Search Ads Maven, which is our AI-powered tool for managing Apple Search Ads campaigns. So let's dive into today's topic and ask the first sort of question, really. So what is MMM and how does it differ from last touch attribution? Marketing mix modeling or MMM, really, I'm going to use that throughout this. So MMM is a powerful statistical method used to measure what's really driving your conversion. It looks at your full funnel of marketing, external factors like national holidays, sporting events, and so on, and complex interactions and relationships between the different channels that you use. And MMM uses advanced data science and machine learning to build large statistical models that answer three sort of core questions, which are what's adding incremental value, when do returns start to drop off, and where should I invest next? Essentially, it's not just counting clicks, it's modeling real-world behavior of what's really driving your conversions. In contrast, what most marketers are still relying on today is touch attribution. This method gives 100% of the credit to the final touch point before the conversion. Simple, yes, but it can be misleading. That's because it tends to overvalue bottom of the funnel channels like app stores and search, and it ignores the impact of upper funnel efforts. MMM brings a more complete and balanced view of your marketing mix beyond just the last click. At a high level, MMM measures influence and last touch measures last touch before the conversion. So before we get into the data that I'm going to show you, I want to quickly share an analogy. I have used this many times before, so apologies for anyone that's seen it before, but it really does help illustrate the difference between last touch attribution and marketing mix modeling. And once you've got this in your mind, the data that I'm about to show you will make a lot more sense. So I call this the cinema analogy. So every time you go to the cinema to see the latest film, there's always a big poster for the exact movie that you're about to see by the entrance of the cinema. Now, in last touch attribution world, 100% of the credit would go for your ticket purchase would go to that poster next to the door. But we all know what's really actually influenced your decision. It's a mix of PR, TV spots, social media, and so on. And that's where MMM comes in. It understands the relationship between your decision and the multiple touch points that you've had on the journey before buying that cinema ticket. And it's able to measure the different influences that each one of those touch points have had on that final conversion point. So MMM also goes a step further. It factors in things like external factors, things like weather, sporting events, pop concerts, and so on, that may or may not affect whether you turned up to the cinema on that specific day. And of course, once you see the data through this lens, it becomes much easier to understand what's actually driving impact. So today I'm going to take you through the 3 biggest reasons why more and more app marketers are shifting toward MMM. There are many more, but these are the main ones making the biggest difference. We'll look at how MMM measures incrementality, how cost curves help you spot under or over investment, and how it can help reshape your investment strategy with advanced optimizations. I want to give you a quick heads up about the data that you're going to see, and more importantly, about the data that you're not going to see. MMM is built on complex data science and machine learning, and it accounts for things like collinearity. So that's when different channels are dependent on each other for conversions. Seasonality, external factors like holidays or elections, and so on. Many, many more. Now, I'm not a data scientist, and I know that many of you aren't either. So for this presentation, we have simplified things down. What you're about to see focuses on core concepts, but it doesn't include all of the deeper modeling layers behind the scenes. And just to be clear, this isn't prescriptive advice for your brand. The data you'll see is aggregated and it's unique to those specific clients and their specific user case. And while it shows directional patterns, it's not meant to give you any advice directly. If you want to go deeper or talk to us specifically about your brand and your use case, come and find us at our stand, which is outside in one of the halls there. So we'd love to chat more about your case. I do have some time at the end for questions as well, so we can answer those questions then. So let's jump in. We'll start with incrementality. In simple terms, incrementality means the conversions you get because of a specific media channel, conversions that wouldn't have happened otherwise. It answers a key question: did the channel actually drive new value or just take credit for something that was going to happen anyway? Now, I want to show you some real-world data that brings this to life. What you're about to see in the following bar charts is performance from 16 of our clients in North America, focused specifically on user acquisition campaigns measured by first-time orders or new orders. This data set represents an average performance from Q1 of this year, so it's very new data, and it compares the 2 approaches of last touch attribution and marketing mix modeling. We've adjusted the data, so we haven't used raw data, we've adjusted this, we've used a normalized index. What that means is that the network with the highest new order volume based on last touch attribution is set to 1. On iOS, that is Apple search ads. Every other network shown is relative to ASA. So this just helps us compare side by side without letting one high volume channel dominate the view. The gray bars represent last touch attribution, the orange bars represent MMM. Now, when you compare the two sets of bars, you can start to clearly see a big difference between what's being reported here. In this example here, MMM is reporting 75% less new orders were influenced by ASA compared to last touch attribution. Now, it's important to understand that neither number is wrong, okay? It's just that they're measuring two different things. The App Store is always the final touch point before someone installs the app. So last touch attribution gives a lot of the credit to ASA because it's technically the last step before someone makes the conversion. But MMM isn't measuring what happened last, it's measuring influence. It's asking, did this channel cause the conversion? Did this channel cause the conversion or just happen to be there at the end? ASA often gets credit for users who are already on their way. I like to describe it as the movie theater poster. You see it on the way, but your decision was already made before you got to the App Store. And the question to ask yourself is, do you want to be investing in influence or do you want to be investing in the final touch point? To be clear, ASA, this isn't an ASA witch hunt, by the way. It can be seen as not a very incremental channel, but that often comes down to the fact that advertisers tend to overinvest in branded search, which tends to drive a very low incrementality. Once they rebalance their strategy on ASA with more generic and competitive terms, it's as incremental as any other channel. So it's not about how the channel's ineffective, it's just how it's being used. Okay, so now looking at the other networks on here, you can see that Google, Meta, TikTok, and AppLovin, we have only concentrated on the big five here. You'll notice that they're all being undervalued by touch attribution. This signals a massive opportunity for marketers to take advantage of this. These channels, according to our MMM model, are actually driving more conversions than they're getting credit for. To help give more context, I've also included the CPA, the average CPA across these 16 clients as well. So you can really see how just dramatically that changes the picture. So what does this all mean? It means that you now have a different perspective. Instead of optimizing what simply shows up last, you can start investing with what's actually driving results, what's influencing your conversions. When you shift your investment toward channels with real influence and away from those just collecting credit, the performance gains can be massive. This is the kind of insight that transforms your strategy. Oh, sorry, I skipped through the last slide there. So just in the spirit of being fair, this is the data for Android as well. And it's a very similar story. Obviously, there's no ASA on Android, but you can see here with Google, because they own the Play Store and because they own search, these are bottom of the funnel systems and media sources. They're also being over-attributed by last touch attribution. So when you're buying app install campaigns, or as it used to be called UAC on Google, a lot of your budget is flowing towards those bottom of the funnel touch points. And just like on iOS, the other major platforms, Meta, TikTok, and AppLovin, have been undervalued with touch attribution on Android as well. So just to summarize both slides quickly, whether it's on iOS or on Android, we see the same pattern. Bottom of the funnel media is consistently overcredited, while more influential channels are being undervalued. And that reveals a massive opportunity to shift your budget towards channels which are actually driving performance. So we've talked about incrementality and how it gives you a more accurate view of your channel's true influence on conversions. It's a big step up from last touch attribution, but some of you might be thinking that, well, we already run incrementality tests, so why do we need MMM? And the answer is incrementality tests are diagnostic. It tells you what happened in a specific channel at a specific time. MMM is both diagnostic and prescriptive. It not only tells you what worked, it shows you how to improve and where to invest next, and how to shift your budget to get the greatest impact. And a big part of that is something that incrementality test and last touch attribution doesn't model, and that's cost curves. Which brings us on to this section. So let's talk about cost curves. It's a critical part of what makes MMM so powerful. Cost curves answer the question of how much value does the next dollar bring. Early dollars tend to be efficient. They reach the easiest to convert users early on, but as you scale, each dollar often delivers less and less, and that's what we call diminishing returns. MMM builds cost curves by analyzing your past spend and performance data to estimate how much value each dollar spend is likely to drive. The output is a curve for each channel to help you see when your spending is efficient and when you're overspending. This is a mock example, but you can see how it works. The horizontal axis shows ad spend, and the vertical axis shows new orders or first-time orders. Behind the scenes, an MMM system will be building these cost curves for every one of your media channels. So if we break this down into a simple scenario, at point A, you're spending $1,100 to generate 90 new orders. That gives you a CPA of $58. That could be on target, so therefore you increase spend to point B, which is $2,300, and that gets you 51 orders. Your CPA drops to $45, which is a great result. Now, intuitively, you would want to spend more on that channel because you're on target. So you keep on spending and you go to point C. Point C, you've spent $4,300, 55 orders, and your CPA jumps to $78. That could still be on target. If you're analyzing this as a whole, which you would be using a MMP, it's telling you could be in or around your target. But here's the kicker. Between point B and point C, you've spent $2,000 just to acquire four more new orders. That's a CPA of $500 for those last few conversions. Or to put this another way, 47% of your budget only generated 7% of value. That means that the first 53% of your budget drove 93% of the value. Now, wouldn't you want to know where you can get more of that 53%? The truth is, this kind of inefficiency is happening all of the time. What MMM does is pinpoint the point of diminishing returns, which is the moment when increase in spend no longer delivers proportional value. That means smarter investment, stronger returns, and no more wasted budget past the point of impact. Here's where this gets real. So this is actual real data from one of our clients. This is a client in the UK, an e-commerce client. Each line represents a different channel, and as you can see immediately that not all spend is created equal. Some channels, like on Social 4, deliver a lot of value early on, and they continue to scale effectively. Others, like Social 1, hit a point of diminishing returns quickly and flatline. That means that after a certain spend level, each extra dollar is getting you less and less in return. The key insight here is every channel has its own unique cost curve, and it behaves differently. Some peak early, some scale smoothly, and some flatline fast. MMM helps you spot the inflection point and the exact moment when spend starts to become inefficient. So you can reallocate budget before waste creeps in. It's not just about which channel works, it's about how much you can spend on each channel before efficiency drops off a cliff. Now let's move into the third reason why app marketers are turning to MMM. And this is arguably the most important one, which is optimization. So far we've talked about incrementality and cost curves. We talk about optimization now. Cost curves and incrementality are retrospective. Optimization is the way forward. And if you only get one thing out of MMM, it's really about what you should be doing next. It answers the question, where should we invest next? The output of the model takes into account everything from your marketing mix, your market conditions, your seasonality, ad stock, and much, much more. And it gives you a clear, data-backed way forward. It's not just retrospective insight, it's a roadmap. Based on your KPIs, so whether you're optimizing CPA or ROAS or another goal, MMM tells you exactly how much to spend in each channel to maximize efficiency. And the recommendations are straightforward, intuitive, with no guesswork, just clear, prescriptive guidance. Let's just take a look at how this plays out with some real-world data. This is an example from one of our e-commerce clients in the UK. Their monthly app marketing budget is around $550,000, and their primary KPI is CPA, so it's a cost per acquisition. Now, before we dive into the results, there's something important to clarify. The only source of truth in any test is your total values. So that includes both paid and organic, and it's something you can easily verify in your own reporting. So in this case, we focused on the total CPA for the client. So it's their total CPA for first-time orders. The reason why we do this is because you won't see any improvements in your last touch attribution when using MMM optimization, because they're measuring two different things. LTA, or last touch attribution, will continue to overvalue bottom of the funnel media, no matter what MMM tells you how to optimize your budget. Here you can see how our MMM system measured performance across their channels compared to last touch. It's a similar story to what we saw earlier with the meta-analysis. ASA performed slightly better in this case because the client wasn't over-indexed too much on branded search. Google, however, was underperforming because they were overspending, and the rest of the networks follow the same trend that we saw earlier in the presentation. You'll also notice we've included aggregate data for DSPs, and importantly, at the end there, we are including TV and podcasts. One of the massive benefits of MMM is that it can measure offline media as well as your online media. So it's using the same yardstick for all types of different media. Now let's have a look at their cost curves here. So this was the example that I showed you earlier, but there's a slight twist here, which is the red X's mark the spot where the client started. So this is where they were investing on these different channels. So you can clearly see that the problem with social 1 down at the bottom there, the black line, and then social 4, where they had spent way past the point of diminishing returns. Our MMM platform made channel level recommendations where they should be pulling back their spend. So with their existing budgets, they're still within their budget, $550,000. It didn't ask them to spend any more or any less. It was just pointing them in the right direction to spend more efficiently. So realigning their investment to where they would have most impact. And this is what happened. So this chart shows the client's total CPA over a 50-month period or a 65-week period. So each bar is a week. The orange line marks out the moment that they started to use the AIM optimizations. And from that point, you can clearly see a drop in the CPA. In fact, the drop was pretty rapid. So it was a 33% reduction in CPA. That means at a high level, they're getting 33% more value from their marketing investment with the same spend, but significantly better results. This is a simple and clear example that represents the kind of performance that we often see when clients implement a well-crafted MMM model. I'll quickly wrap up before we move on to questions. So today we've walked through how marketing mix modeling can help you go beyond surface level metrics and really understand what's driving your results. We started with incrementality, so measuring the true influence, not just who touched the ball last. We looked at cost curves and how they can show you where your money's working the hardest. And we wrapped up with optimization, so the real power of MMM, turning complex data science into clear decisions about where to invest next. It's not just about looking back, it's about knowing exactly how to move forward.